This is the Entrepreneurial CPA podcast, teaching you how to think outside the box to become entrepreneurial leaders by reconceptualizing the accounting industry. We sit down with some of the most interesting and innovative leaders in the accounting landscape and get a chance to learn from them, gain key insight into their knowledge and what drives success in their lives. I'm Garrett Wagner, Entrepreneurial CPA channel host, and we hope you learned something new from today's episode. Now, our normal host, the man looking to the future, Christopher Kelly, isn't available today, so I'm going to fill in. So I'm going to turn it over to myself. And I'm excited to be joined by our guest today, Bryce Welker, CEO of the Crush Empire. Bryce isn't just a CPA. He's an entrepreneur at heart, and his energy and passion took him from getting an accounting degree to being the CEO and founder of the Crush Empire. And it's a vast empire. We're going to talk about that today. Bryce, thanks for joining us. Let's start way back at the beginning. Why did you choose to study accounting?
That's always the good question, because some people would think that you have to be kind of insane to pick accounting. But for me, it kind of, I love numbers, I love math, and accounting isn't necessarily math, but it's about how you organize math. At least to me, that's kind of how I see it. So I was always, recording statistics of basketball games when I was a little kid, and I would keep sheets of rebounds and points, and then I would total them, and then I'd do averages for the week and the month. So I guess I was always a nerd. I guess that's the answer. And yeah, that's kind of how I got into it, and then things kind of just kept evolving.
Yeah, we get that a lot of people are like, yeah, I'm not sure what to do. I'm a little nerdy. I like numbers. Let me get into accounting. But you're a great example of, you went into accounting and you've got your CPA, but you're not like doing accounting on a daily basis. You found an amazing career path that the accounting was like that foundation.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of ironic. A month or so after I got my CPA license, actually got it in the mail and it was official. I quit my accounting firm and went to go start my own thing. But it kind of gave me the confidence to do that. So I mean, there's a lot of benefits from it, but it's okay to have, a different sort of career and angle and not do what everyone else is doing. And I think that's why I was excited to come on your show, because you kind of open the eyes of other accountants and other entrepreneurs out there that are thinking about doing something, but aren't quite sure what they want to do or what's available to them.
Yeah. And a lot of times, like you said, it's realizing there's these other opportunities out there. So let me ask you, for you, or you were early on in your career, what made you decide to quit your job working in a CPA firm? You just got your CPA license. It's that big, first milestone. And you're like, nope, that's it. I'm out. What took you to drive out elsewhere? And what did you do?
Yeah, for me, I think it was more, I wanted to grow really fast, both on myself and also my skills. And I kind of capped out at the job I was at, and I was getting promoted, but it wasn't fast enough for me. And I felt like I worked harder than everybody, and I wanted to be rewarded more. And that's not how it really works at a big company sometimes. And there, in certain circumstances it is, but I knew I could grow much faster on my own. And so, I started my first website when I was still at the firm, and that first one is Crush the CPA Exam. And it's still one of my biggest websites. I have about 20 of them, but that was the one I got started in because I knew how to help people that wanted to take the CPA exam, because I've done it and I've actually passed it. I know all the hoops and tricks and little things that, a lot of people don't talk about that make it a real pain in the ass. I'm sorry, I'm not sure if we can cuss, but a pain in my butt. And that's it was really nice and refreshing for once for people to email me thanking me for all this stuff that I put out there online, and all these insights and tips I gave them that really helped them and made them feel confident going into their exam or whatever it was. But it was kind of a 180 from, crunching numbers, just doing people's books, only hearing from the client if I'm in trouble, to everyone's very grateful and I'm enjoying it because I like helping people. So that was really cool.
Yeah, it sounds like you went from feeling that typical CPA firm problem of okay, my trajectory in this firm is limited and they're slowing my growth. They're not really eager to keep fueling that fire in me. It's all of a sudden, yeah, you're in charge, you're your own boss. You can do what you want. You can find tremendous passion in what you do. And CPA studies, it's an interesting field, and I won't mention anybody by name, but there's a few big companies that have such a behemoth hold on the industry. How were you able to kind of break into such a monopolized subsect of CPA exam test prep help?
Yeah, so I'm not actually a CPA course like creator and provider. I offer some supplementary study materials that I've created, but I'm actually more of a marketer for those companies that are in the CPA test prep product creation. Um, I mean, that's their business. So I help them promote their products with all sorts of email marketing, SEO, and I don't do their SEO, but I have on my websites, I review all of these different courses, and I've literally been in every single one of them many times over the last 7 years as they evolve. And I check out the software, I check out the practice questions, the textbooks. They send me everything, and then I write a review about it and let people know my thoughts. And you know, more or less, my goal is to help people find the course that will help them in their personal learning style, because that's another reason I started my website to begin with. Was nobody was talking about, you know, everyone says what's the best course, but the best course depends on how you like to learn. If you learn from videos the best, and that's how you really grasp the information, then, you know, I would recommend this course for you. And then if you like just to read the textbooks and do the practice questions and learn from that, like I did, then this course would be best. And they're both great courses, but they cater to different needs. And so that's kind of where I was excited to start Crush the CPA exam, because I knew nobody else was talking about this. There's a lot of fragmented information out there, and I can really be valuable to people. And I wish somebody would have done this for me when I was studying. So nobody did it, so I'm going to do it. And just so many more opportunities have opened up once I got started on that. It became obvious that I don't have to work in this firm or any firm. I can go off and start my own thing. And so, you know, that's kind of how I got into, you know, when I quit my job, my website wasn't making enough money, but it was making enough to go live in Thailand. And I'd never been there, so that sounded like a cool adventure. And so, you know, on $1,000 a month, I quit my job and moved to Thailand. The one smart thing I did that I think a lot of people and your readers in your audience, you probably get questions from too, is I didn't just quit my job and not, you know, I had $1,000 coming in from this website, which isn't a lot, but enough to pay the bills. But I also went out and got a couple clients, and I just did their bookkeeping every month. And I had 2 or 3 clients at all times, maybe 20, 30 hours a month. And they were paying me US wages, and I was living in Thailand for, you know, dollars. I mean, $1,000 a month in Thailand can get you a pretty good life. And that's surprising to a lot of Americans, because a lot of people haven't really gone over there until recently. It's been a little bit more popular. But it was kind of a little arbitrage of currency. So even off of working 30 hours a month with these clients, I could live in Thailand in a very good quality of life. But that wasn't the plan, but that was my transition plan. And so I think, you know, there's people out there thinking what they want to do in their own careers, or do they want to start their own thing and be an entrepreneur? There's alternative options out there. You just got to be a little bit creative and look into it and see exactly what you want to do.
I like that, because that is a big alternative. We live in such a globally connected world that, yeah, I mean, you can live anywhere and run like a business here, like you're running the Crush Empire. And then you kind of started doing like, hey, I've got this skill of accounting, and I can be the outsourced CFO accountant for companies. And I'm sure you're able to do that remotely from around the globe. And we see a lot of that. We see a lot of a rise in people wanting to work remotely, whether it's full-time from home or be able to travel around the globe like that and live in Thailand or Europe or Asia for a little bit and still work for a firm in the US. It's now a possibility. From your experience, was there any drawbacks to that? Or were you able to function with it pretty well with the clients and the interaction back in the States?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think in anything in life, there's always going to be a trade-off. I wouldn't say drawback, but you always have to sacrifice something if you're going for something else. You know, it's just the different options. And so I think the thing that the trade-off for working remotely or working abroad, specifically working in a different time zone, is really difficult, especially if you're more of a client-facing type of person where you're actually talking to them on a regular basis. When you're just doing bookkeeping, it's great because you can do it on your own time. It's usually month-end close is, all the first of the month every month, and you can knock it out quickly. But there are challenges. I mean, even just internet connection. They had really good connections in Bangkok and Chiang Mai and Hong Kong and all these places I was working in. But it's still, you never know like what could happen. There was a typhoon in Hong Kong when I was there, and it just came and like in 2 days out of nowhere, and it ruined a lot of meetings I had set up. So there's always going to be variables and things that pop up, but I think that's what the future is really going to value in the accounting industry specifically, is people who can adapt and provide value to the new needs that are being created. And I think remote work is one great way that they can do that, because it gives you so much flexibility with your time, with your schedule. And, also I find myself a lot more productive when I didn't have to drive 30 minutes to and from work every day, wasting gas money, wasting time, wasting energy, being able to just put all of my energy and, everything I'm working for into the business, that extra hour of work a day. And then that extra energy I also had from not having to travel and whatnot. That actually, I mean, you do that every single day for 5 years, that stuff adds up. And I think it's more of an exponential gain than a linear type of gain. But yeah, back to your question. I get a lot of questions on my Crush the CPA exam site and several of my other sites about that specifically, is how can I be a remote worker? I want to be my own boss. I'm studying for the CPA exam, or I'm studying for even the bar exam, or any of these, the enrolled agent exam. I cover pretty much all of them. And how can I do that? And I don't have the answer, but I can say I know enough from talking to these people that there's a lot of opportunities out there, and there's a lot of companies that don't care anymore about where you work, where you show up. It's a great time to be alive, because 20 years ago, if you went to your boss and you're like, I want to move, I don't want to come into work anymore, but I still want to work for you and get paid, and just not be managed so much, and they would just laugh at you, and you'd probably quit or be let go or something. But now it's very common, and it's nice to see that business owners, including myself, I have dozens of contractors, freelancers, people all over the world that not just do my accounting and my HR and my CFO, but also operations, freelancers, designers, India, Hong Kong, Philippines, Europe, all over the world. I have people who work for me part-time regularly, and it's enabled me to just grow my business exponentially, or not exponentially, but just really, really effectively over the last few years. And that same option is open to other people out there. And so, I mean, I use a platform called Upwork. I love it. It's the biggest one out there for hiring remote workers. So, I mean, that's a great avenue. I think if I was not sure what to do, and I was getting my CPA license, and I was, I wasn't quite sure where I fit in the whole spectrum of the accounting industry, I would probably just throw up a profile. I'm pretty sure it's free. I've hired dozens of people on there. Like I said, I continually, I use the platform to pay people and manage them. But that's a great option. You can throw up a profile, say, these are my skills. I know how to do month-end close. That you can just have one skill on there. That's your specialty. You're the month-end close person. I charge $55 an hour. I can usually do it in this amount of time. Just give them your sales pitch on there, and your background. And you'd be surprised, because there's a lot of people that are looking for a very specific skill. So even if you don't know how to do month-end close, what do you know how to do? Everyone has something where they're a little better than other people. Even accountants, just to have an accounting mind is totally different than the status quo. Because it's very obvious, and I am an accountant, so I get it, that the brain works a little bit differently when you have to organize numbers in that sort of sequence to actually work, and to grasp that. And so already that's your special skill. If nothing else, just sell that. And don't say I'm a bookkeeper, I'm an accountant, but talk to people that don't understand accounting in the way that it would make sense to them, because these are the people that will want to hire you. They just don't know it yet.
Yeah, I mean, I
So
know.
yes, I mean, that's kind of my rant. So
Yeah,
I'm not sure if I
I
answered your
like it. I
question
mean,
directly,
I
but
know for me personally, I use Upwork a lot myself. I can find some amazing freelancers on there, and that's a great tip for people listening. If you want to try and branch out on your own, yeah, it's low stress. Put it on there. Pick your, like you said, pick your skill and go with it. One of the things you said there, you know, a lot of good points. One of the things I really was drawn to was, you know, kind of finding your path and your skills of, okay, you went to school for accounting, you got your CPA, like that was your skill. What do you think helped you pivot from accountant to entrepreneur? Because we talk about that a lot, how to be more of an entrepreneur and kind of blend the two, how to be an entrepreneurial CPA. So what helped you make that pivot?
yeah. So for me, I always wanted to have my own company since I was probably, I didn't really recognize it as a little kid, but I was always doing the lemonade stands. And in college, I actually started my first business, and I took out a loan from my dad actually. And he gave me a loan to start. I gave him this big old business plan for this vending machine business. And I bought 10 new vending machines, and, I serviced them for 4 or 5 years, and it was profitable every year while I was in college. So that was kind of how I got into entrepreneurship, and I loved it. But I wanted to get back there. I just didn't know how. So I was always looking for opportunities, and I think that's the answer right there. Is I worked at a firm for a couple of years out of college, but I was always looking for. I always had a side hustle. I would take on a client on the side or two because I knew how to bookkeep. So I would, I was doing it for the firm, but I would also do it for myself as well. Like I was always looking for like new ways to create money or new opportunities or needs in the market. And then after I took the CPA exam, I really realized, okay, I put in a lot of work for that, and I got a lot of information that I think would help people. How can I do that in a way that I can also make enough money to, pay my bills? So I think looking at your life as like a giant opportunity every day. I see so much opportunity now. It's just an abundant mindset, I think is the best way that a lot of people would describe it. But there's so many. It's the shiny object syndrome for entrepreneurs, where, oh wow, this could be a good little business, but it's like, whoa, I need to stay focused on what's actually been doing really well for me the last 5 years. Don't get distracted. And I mean, I've had a few other businesses. Some of them went under. Some of them I sold. But that always looking for new opportunities out there, whether you have already done something on your own or not. That's the first step. And being able to identify a real need is, will somebody, pull out and pay you money for doing what you say you're going to do, or selling them a product that you say you can build. And if you can confirm that on a small scale, then you'll get the confidence to go on it and actually hit it full time. And that's what I did too. Is I wasn't planning on quitting my accounting job, but once I saw my site making $1,000 a month, and I was just working on it 2 hours a day after work every single day. And I'm like, what if I focus on this 12 hours a day or 10 or 8 hours a day? I knew I could grow it much faster, but I needed the proof first. So just getting that first sale on the board, getting the first blog post up, whatever it is, just take granular action to get to where you want to be. That's kind of how I've always viewed entrepreneurship, is just kind of step by step, because there's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes, as you know. And but if you take it step by step, it can be fun, and you can grow much faster that way. It doesn't seem so overwhelming.
No, that makes complete sense. So let me ask you along those lines. You mentioned you've got some like 20 websites. So what are the different business models you've gotten into nowadays as you've kind of grown from just crush the CPA exam to this whole crush empire?
Yeah, that's a good question that changes. And it all comes back to focus. Exactly what I was just talking about was, I've gone out into different traffic sources, doing paid ads, email marketing, all this stuff. Product creation I've gotten into before. I started an affiliate network business, which is like it's the link tracking, and I did all these things, and they did pretty well. They all made money, but it was a matter of, okay, is this really servicing a need? And when I tried to grow them like the size of something like Crush the CPA exam, it just wasn't. The market was telling me no, and it was profitable enough to keep going, but it was more or less, go back to what actually got you to be successful in the beginning. And so I always keep going back to focus, focus, focus. And for me, that's SEO, building websites, getting them to rank at the very top of Google, and then getting that traffic and talking about something that is meaningful or that you can offer value. And for me, that was talking about test prep, how to pass these exams, what to do step by step type of stuff. So I keep going back to that. And every time I cut out, shut down a biz or sell a biz and have more time and go back to what I initially got me here, that's where I see these huge jumps in growth and huge jumps in sales, huge jumps in traffic, when I'm really able to buckle down and focus. So for me, it's SEO and affiliate marketing. These reviews websites have been really great. There are going to be more opportunities. I think that the industry is going to evolve a lot over the next 5 years, which a lot of people are scared about because they've been doing the same thing. But I'm really excited because I know there'll be a much bigger opportunity when that happens, because there's going to be new ways to market to people. There's going to be new laws that are going to shut certain companies down that create a whole new, wealth of potential customers. So I'm not scared about change. I actually quite embrace it because it creates way more opportunity than it decreases it.
Now, with that, I think that's one of the things that I see in a lot of accountants and CPAs. They're fearful of change. What do you think's allowed you to take that completely different mindset of, I'm going to embrace change because I see that's the way to the future?
Just getting out of your comfort zone. And that's the ultimate question, right? It's how do you reprogram your brain so you can feel comfortable doing something that you used to be uncomfortable doing, or not only not feeling uncomfortable, but be confident and be excited about it and be enthusiastic. I think that goes a long way. For me, I've always just been really curious about everything, about how things work. And then I go on, watch a video about it, and then go, that's today, that's very common, but I've kind of always been like that, where, how does nature do this? And I go look up the science behind it. And then 4 hours later, I'm reading this book. And I've always been a very curious person. I think that's a really underrated attribute, but it can also be nourished too. It's like anything. If your curiosity is, generally the education system isn't there to make you more curious and excited about the things in this world. It's more or less to kind of teach you a certain set of skills that will make you, employable. That's kind of how the school system's set up. So I would say go back to something. If someone's struggling out there with it, go back to something what was the last thing that did excite you? Go back and explore that some more. Read some more books about that. Watch some more shows about that. Look into different products in that niche, maybe, or look into different companies or things that are exciting and innovations in that whatever it was. Because then that'll spark again, like that hunger to learn something new. And then once you're excited to learn more, everything else becomes much easier. I work a lot of hours, but it's not like punching in and going into work. I'm really excited because there's all these challenges and I don't know how to overcome them. But I know if I keep learning these things and listening to these people smarter than me, I'm going to figure it out. So I think going back to something that you're really excited and passionate about, or I wouldn't even say passionate, something that something about that you could be helpful to others. It doesn't really matter, but whatever it is that kind of makes you excited to go log into your computer and look it up right now, there's probably some legs behind that.
That's great, because one of the questions we get a lot from the few that watch us and the people that I meet around the country, especially on the younger side, is I'm not sure what I want to do. I'm not sure where my passion lies. And that's some great advice of just get out there, try different things, see what you're attracted to, and kind of see where that passion lies and what fuels it. But you also mentioned you work a lot, which is okay. But how do you try and balance your work and your personal lives? How do you play with that teeter-totter?
In the beginning, there was no balance, because it was all work, but that was okay because I wanted to make something of nothing, and I knew if I didn't figure out how to build Crush Empire and how to figure out SEO and get my websites ranked and how to put together these different agreements and contracts, that I was going to have to go back into working in a cubicle and crunching numbers and being that typical accountant that works at a job that he doesn't really like and it's not fulfilling. And for me, that was the ultimate. Like, I never want to go back to that. Not that I enjoyed my accounting job, but I knew that my options would be more limited when I came back if I didn't figure this out. And for me, just having that fear, honestly, was a very big motivator. But after about the first 2 years, it definitely, you figure out, you learn a lot in that first years, and you're always learning. But the first 2 years is like make or break. And so for me, it was okay that I didn't have much of a balance because I was single and I was living in a different country, and it was an exciting time. But after a while, yeah, you need to kind of figure out a program so you can sustain it. And so now, I mean, I work a lot, but I also take a lot of vacations. I also sometimes I'll take a half day if I'm feeling overworked. I have that flexibility and freedom now, but I also know when I'm getting burnt out. So 100 hours a week was nothing when I first started, but now I definitely would never do that to myself because I know it's going to come back to haunt me next week when I'm getting older now and I can't sustain that. I think it's just systems. I have good people in place now that handle certain things that used to be really time consuming for me. A lot of those people I hired on Upwork, back to that whole thing. And, if I need legal advice about this certain matter or an agreement drafted up, I go on there and hire somebody like same day usually. And it's just being able to access all the tools that are available out there. We live in an incredible time right now where you can log on and hire somebody to do a very specific thing for 1/10 the price as it used to cost 15 years ago. And you had to just go with a recommendation from hoping somebody in your friend or family circle like knew somebody that could help that problem. But now you can just Google anything, go on YouTube, and I've learned so many things on YouTube. Like it's insane, like random things too. And you learn from the best of the best. Like, so horse racing, I didn't know how to read a horse racing card. So I watched some YouTube videos and listened to the guy who made the most money ever last year as a horse bettor, and he's a professional, and his insights and tips. And then, you can become so good at something in a much shorter amount of time, and for a lot of times for free or very little money. So there's really no excuses anymore. Like, the opportunities aren't out there. The opportunities are there. You just need to recognize that these are tools that need to be used for learning or for whatever you need them for hiring. But they're so incredibly valuable. And once you realize that, I think people's eyes will get much bigger as far as what's possible and what they can really do with their careers and their lives.
Well, then, speaking of opportunities, I want to ask you a two-part question. You talk a lot about opportunities and abundance. Do you think it still makes sense for young people to get an accounting degree? And do you think it still makes sense for people to go into public accounting to start with?
So to get an accounting degree, absolutely. I mean, the fundamentals of accounting, it's, even if you do have a numbers mind, it can be really tough. I mean, everyone listening to this show is obviously taking an accounting class at some point. And I mean, the bigger problem is having enough good teachers that can actually teach it in a way that doesn't overcomplicate it. Because I've had some really good teachers, and just like most people, I've had some really bad ones that they made the topic more difficult than it was me just reading the book and figuring it out. But for most cases, I had some good teachers and some decent teachers even that, like, they did a really good job of, like, forming my brain into being to accept these debits and credits, T-charts, and all this stuff that us accountants kind of live and breathe every day. They made it so it was a normal thing rather than this abstract, okay, what am I doing here? So yes, absolutely, to your first question, continuing to get an accounting degree, there's huge value into that. I'm not 100% gung-ho on our current education system, but I think there's absolutely a lot of value in getting an accounting degree. Public accounting, I've never worked in public accounting, so that's kind of my background and my opinion. That's where it's coming from. But my experience is that I've had a lot of friends that have gone into public accounting, and their quality of life went down exponentially. And they knew it even while they were doing it. And I'm sure a lot of people in your audience are doing it or have, but I would say that should be like the last option. The only reason a lot of people go in there is because you learn a lot of really valuable skills very quickly, and you're playing with the big boys. I mean, you're on another level. So if that's your goal, is to learn from the best and the smartest, and then yeah, that's probably where you should be. But if you're looking for more of a high quality lifestyle where you have more time, more freedom, more flexibility, you want to take a day off, you don't have to call anybody and ask for it, and then hope that they say yes. I would say absolutely not. And so for me, that's where I kind of fell in the bucket. I was just trying to get any job out of college, and I mean, public accounting firms, I don't think they would even consider me. My GPA wasn't high enough. But that was actually a good thing in disguise, because I had my friends go on work there, and a lot of them quit like earlier than they thought. Some of them hung in there, and they're still there, and they're not very happy, but they're making lots of money. And I think those things it's much better if you can align both of those things together, so you can be happy while making money and excited and enthusiastic to grow. So I think public accounting for me, it's not the first option. I would say look into anything that you can do and sell to somebody else, a business, a client, whatever it is, a product, and try to figure out something that way first, and then have public accounting be the fallback.
Okay. It's always interesting to hear kind of different people's perspective on those things. There's no right or wrong answer, but clearly you've done a lot of amazing work with CPA exam and different types of test study materials. So when it comes to studying for this test, and a lot of people I meet, they just feel like they just can't take a test well, and they get nervous about it. What have you seen from people that have been able to successfully pass the CPA exam or any kind of certification test like that?
Consistency. I think by far, I mean, I get these emails every single day for years and years. I've been getting them, and you see patterns very quickly. People get unmotivated because they fail a section or because it gets hard. And, that's life. It's what do you do when things get hard? A lot of people will send me a 3-page email explaining how hard it is. And I'm like, trust me, I know, I did it. But if you would have just studied this hour instead of crafting this immaculate email to me about all the reasons why X, Y, Z, you would already be a lot closer to your goal. And so I get it. It is difficult, but a lot of people they find excuses, or they get unmotivated, and then that's their excuses that they're unmotivated. The people that just go in, they pass, or they at least get a really good score and almost pass every single time, are the people who every day after work or before school or whatever their program is, they have a system, and I'm going to study for an hour and a half during the weekdays, 4 hours on each weekend, and I'm going to do that for 2 months at a time until I pass each section. And that's kind of how I programmed mine. I mean, it was a little different than that, but that's a solid plan. And the people who just show up and do it, even on days where it's hard or they don't feel like studying after work, I mean, that's why this designation, the CPA designation, is so kind of revered internationally. I mean, I have Hong Kong and Japanese friends who are coming to the U.S. They have their CPA license in their countries, but they're coming to the U.S. to get it here because they're much more marketable in their own countries if they have a U.S. CPA license, and then they get paid a lot more too. And so it's not supposed to be easy. I mean, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. And you hear that, but it's so true. Everybody wants to complain right now. Everybody wants to go on Twitter and say, look, I hate studying for CPA exam, and just waste time. But if you just show up and say, I'm going to do it for an hour and a half, that's reasonable. I can do that every single day. I'm going to show up and do this until I knock it out. Those are the people who do extremely well, the people you don't hear about usually online.
Yeah, I like that, because I go back to a story. One of the guys I used to work with way back when I first started, he told me it took him 9 times to pass the CPA exam. They're very similar. And I said, well, what did you do wrong the first 8 times? And he was just very playing by the fact of well, the first 8 times I didn't study. Those first 8 times it was 2 days before, and I was like, I got to cram. I'd trying to study 6 hours a day, and I'd go in and I'd fail. The last time, just like you said, he's like, all I did was, okay, I'm going to study 2 hours a day every day for 3 months beforehand, And there you go. He goes, honestly, it wasn't too bad. So yeah, I love that. Just make a system, be diligent in it. And it's, you know, you got to be committed for that period. And it's definitely a lot easier now with the CPA exam with just one part at a time versus having to pass multiple sections at once.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think the other part I left out of there, the first part is creating a system and a schedule. And then the second part is commitment. That's the word you just used that popped into my mind. And that's the part, is committing to being accountable to yourself, that I'm going to show up an hour and a half every day, do whatever it takes. If you're not going to be, accountable to yourself, find a family member, a friend, or somebody studying, and make a wager that you have to pay each other $100 if you don't show up and study an hour and a half each day this week, or whatever it is. There's all sorts of little tricks you can do, but it comes down to motivation. Why are you motivated? That's what I talk to a lot of people about that are studying, and it's why did you even think that this was a good idea to get your CPA license? What made you think that at one point? Because there had to be something, because you don't just you can do it just because, but it's going to be a lot harder, and you're probably going to fail some sections if you're just doing it because and you think you're smart and you're good at accounting. Because it's going to test you. And so when things get hard, what are you going back to that's going to, fulfill you and make you excited to get back out there and tackle the challenge? And for me, it was very simple. I was broke and I could barely pay my bills. So I wanted the $5,000 bonus that my firm was offering. And I also wanted a promotion and raise, which was promised to me. And for me, that was social validation, I guess you would say, because, telling your friends and family I got promoted, I'm a CPA, like that feels really good. And it did feel really good. You earned it. And I think for me, that was kind of my why. And also I had somebody tell me specifically that it was impossible for me to pass all 4 sections in the first time, because this is very rare. And so I took that as a challenge, because I wasn't that great of an accountant, to be honest. I was a good test taker because I knew how to put together a system and keep myself accountable to it. Back to that whole thing, there's much smarter accountants and CPAs out there failing these exams that I passed that are way better and way smarter in the accounting arena than me. So it's not really about how smart you are, I would say. It's more about being disciplined, doing what you say you're going to do, holding yourself accountable, and remembering, like, why are you doing this in the first place? If it's not enough for you to be excited about, then you need to find a new why, whether that's money, whether that's validation from your friends and family, whether that's a promotion at work with your colleagues, whatever it is. You need to identify that and be honest with yourself and just say, that's what I want. And so whenever times get tough, I'm going to go back to that.
I like it. You got a little deep on us there. I like that direction. So with that, a question we always ask our guests, and it's a little bit of a deeper question. Success has different meanings for different people. So how do you define success? And is there ever going to be a point in your career where you feel content, like you've reached it all and you can just kind of relax?
I don't think I'll ever be content. Content's an interesting word. I would say I hope I'm always excited about something enough to be working on it until I die. Whether that's, investing in stocks at some point when taking like a little slower approach to it, a little bit more passive approach, or whether that's buying an NBA basketball team and, hiring and firing some of the players that you don't like and putting together the pieces of the puzzle like Mark Cuban gets to do. Like that's pretty cool. But whatever it is, like, I just want to have fun, and I want to wake up and be like, have a little fire in my belly still. And it's easy to get doing the same thing every single day, and you kind of go through the motions, and then that's life, and 2 years go by and whatever. But whenever I catch myself kind of even feeling like that, then I know I need to break out and figure out what's going to excite me to kind of reshape the next chapter in my life. So back to your question of success, what does that mean to me? And it does mean a lot of different things to different people. I think that's it, is just waking up and being excited about the challenges I'm going to have to tackle throughout the day. And obviously not all of them. The things suck, especially being an entrepreneur. Every day I'm putting out fires I didn't expect. You have to have a lot of difficult conversations. You have to make a lot of hard decisions that the stakes are very big. other people's lives are impacted. But I think I'm programmed for that, because that makes me want to step up and be better and read more books. And I want to be like these guys that are doing it really well. And so I try to surround myself with those type of people. And it's just about growth. Personal growth is kind of what it comes down to from a professional career or personal. It's intertwined. So for me, it's as long as I'm always growing in multiple areas of my life, not just financially or business wise, that to me is success.
I love it. And those are the areas that it doesn't really matter what you do in life. If you can have those, you're going to be successful and want to do more of that. Because that's what fuels us as people. If we can have something that we really care about and are interested in and then drives us, it's going to make all the difference in the world. And that's where we kind of talk about going from like a job to more of like a purpose in life. I don't just have a job or a career. I do something that I enjoy. I have a calling every day that I get to follow up on. So Bryce.
Yeah. And I mean, real quick on that note, just a lot of people get hung up on that because they say, well, or like people would say, oh, I'm not passionate about taking the CPA exam. Like, why should I do it? Well, it's not about what you're passionate about. It's about like the end goal. If you can be passionate about the end goal, building a company is really hard. You know this. It's really hard, but that's not what I'm not passionate about. Building the company from like all these little things I have to figure out, like legal wise and all this stuff. But the end goal of seeing the company grow, hiring more people, being able to give them raises so they can do more things with their lives. There's a lot of that for me is fulfilling. And so I focus on that rather than the struggle.
I love it. Focus on the goal, focus on the big picture versus the struggle, because we have a million different struggles every day. So Bryce, as we run out of time here, any final thoughts to the audience? And then wrap up with how can people get in touch with Bryce, the man in charge of Crush the CPA exam?
Yeah, I guess any final words would just be, if you're even thinking about like going off and starting your own thing, I'm not saying it is or isn't right for you because I don't know you, but just send me an email and maybe I can help you out. If you have a good question and you've done a little research into it, I love helping people like that, where I can tell that they really mean what they say and they're not just sending me an email for something they could Google and figure out. But there are opportunities out there. And so need help identifying any of those, or you think you might have one, shoot me an email. It's Bryce, BRYCE, at crushempire.com, CRUSHEMPIRE. And I will get back to you. And, don't be afraid to go out and take risks and try something new. As far as you don't have to do the same accounting career that most, accountants do. There are other options out there, more exciting ones, probably some that are better fit for you than your current situation if you're not happy. So if that's you, go explore those other options. And if I can be any help to any of you, send me an email and I'd love to help.
I love it. Bryce, thank you so much for the time today. Hopefully all of our listeners on the Entrepreneurial CPA podcast learned something today to help them take a step towards breaking free of the box and becoming the entrepreneur that they want to be. We encourage you every day, take action to invest in yourself and take steps to change the world. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thank you for listening to today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on YouTube, iTunes, or wherever you choose to listen. If you want to take a step to reconceptualize your life and become an entrepreneurial CPA, click the link in the description wherever you are listening to this episode and join one of our entrepreneurial CPA groups. Take that positive step to invest in yourself. As always, we challenge you today to take action to change the world and invest in yourself.